I'm making myself some tea, chamomile tea. This scooper came from when I was y'all probably don't care. Anyway, I use this scooper to give me the proper amount of any loose leaf tea I might be having, whether it's lemon verbena or chamomile, or actually this whole rest of this is one serving. So you see that fills up this scooper. And if I were to make it a heaping teaspoon, it would be this whole thing. So in order to make my tea, this is not even about the ingredients. This is about the efficiency, I guess. Cinnamon stick. Stick that in there. But what I did was I took a health conscious coffee filter, which are these brown recycle filters here, and I took that scoop of chamomile, put it in like that, and then just fold the top around to where I should have a staple really, but I don't. So I use this, clip the end, and then I put this was the tea bag, period. But because I'm conscious of using plastic, and that's not to say don't do it, because we're at a state in this country where you need to do the best you can do within your means. So if all you have is a binder clip and that keeps it from spilling into your tea, then by all means. So anyway, but I folded that over. I dunk it in with my fingers several times. It's not done steeping. And so the top is just folded over. The reason why I didn't put hot water in all the way up to the top was because obviously this originally wasn't completely wet, so the top was still coming open. But it's good now. So it's that simple. Ugh. I'm smoking. Can't see the smoke? Yeah. Speaking of smoke, I feel like I need to dose up again. I'm actually staying heavily meditated today because I'm grieving for the culture. Because since I'm heavily dosed, I was motivated to also make myself some chamomile tea. I wonder if you got mediocre cannabis and you have just access out your ass because you have that privilege. And if you didn't, I know you can make meditation with it for a fact and it'll be good. But I wonder if you can just because I can imagine not want to waste it in a tea bag, in a homemade tea bag like I just made. But if it's only semi-okay, and anyway, I wonder if you make tea out of it like this, if you could still reap the benefits. I don't see why not. I can't imagine it tasting any kind of way. Speaking of, I'm at a stage where I can actually, I guess you figure you're grown when you can drink tea without sweetening it. But I'm sure there are tea drinkers who's forever sweeten their tea. Because, after all, like 1 cube or 2, right? And I even went as far as to try to infuse some honey. Well, I tried to infuse some honey directly. Well, it didn't do much. But it had a flavor that veered away from the original taste of honey. So I didn't like the way it sweetened my tea after that. After I had infused it. And which would have been fine if it would have meditated me. But it didn't even work in a way where I could feel it. And so that caused me to do some research and say, well, let me see if the amount of fat, because we know you can do coconut oil, we know you can do butter, and so I said, well, this is honey. Let me see what the fat content is of honey to see if it's less, and maybe that's why that's not activating. So I looked it up, and honey has no fat. So duh. And then that made me go all the way back to the whole idea of weed tea and saying, how are y'all making weed tea? Like, how are you making tea that can get you high? You have to have some fat soluble shit in there. And then I've tried just putting the oil. You know, people say you can put coconut oil in your coffee or butter in your coffee and stuff like that. But how, Sway? The oil floats to the top. So, and now for the record, this is all speculative because I don't have enough access to cannabis to where I could just, I want to say waste it, but it's not wasting for people that can't that have abundance and can try different things. But I don't have that kind of access to waste over some weed, enough weed to this much weed I'm gonna waste over to make some tea? Nah. But to people who have excess, you know, why not try a bunch of stuff? Just like, for example, whenever I can collect a bunch, or I would just use all my leftovers, which is actually not a good idea because your key probably settles in the bottom. But anyway, I would use my leftover that didn't stay attached to the bud. And that's what I would use to make ingestible meditation, right? So I did really good with that, you know. And I don't know what happened with that culinary ability in terms of that, because I guess I can tell you now that I used to make some cupcakes to be rivaled. But I don't even do that so much anymore. I don't know what I started doing differently. I haven't seen hawks today. And one of them dipped low and glided right across the patio like a hawk, my G. But nothing surprises me in this orange era, so there's also that. But anyway, so I was like, how do y'all do it? Well, finally, I went and looked at one of my old school Canna community vloggers, and they infused the honey using coconut oil. And there's a whole blending process where they get infused together so that they don't separate from your tea or coffee or whatever you put it in. So I presume that to be how that's done. But you know, after I did all that, and after I tried all these different tinctures and all these different and succeeded and failed and all these different things, it occurred to me, at the end of the day, if I found something that works, use that. I mean, if you're fascinated in terms of culinary arts, just like they're interesting to me. I mean, it's a hobby. But ultimately, I'm just looking for ways to infuse it for the end result, right? And if I found something that gives me the end result, technically, it occurs to me right now that it doesn't matter what you put it in, right? So, let's say you have concentrate in whatever form. Cinnamon. Let's say that you have some effective, potent oral concentrate that works every time. Well, instead of trying to learn 12 million recipes to infuse it into, unless you're just a chef and food is your shit, if that's the case, you can eat whatever the fuck you can eat or drink whatever the fuck you want to, and actually just ingest some of that orally. And technically, you got your infused food, right? And especially if it's going to take it that long, you know, your ingestible, your food, you know, they might take a couple of hours to hit you, an hour and a half, 2 hours to hit you. So, and seeing as that's also true for oral concentrates, why not just, the moral of the story is, if I'm interested in infusing it into food, and I have a particular food I want to infuse it into, why don't I just either buy or make that food? Matter of fact, why don't I take some of the concentrate first, then buy or make that food, which might take an hour and a half to 2 hours, right? Right about the time for the concentrate to kick in. And then I can pacify my munchies with said food right around the time that concentrate should be kicking in, right? So it occurred to me, I sure am bending over backwards to get this whole decarb rule right, which I still want to do, sidebar, because I want to master the art of making super potent oil, you know, infused oils, actual oils, coconut oil. Okay, I want to know the art of making infused coconut oil where it when taken orally, it will get you high. Because I don't think I've mastered that. I've made oils where you can feel something. You feel something. You feel relaxed or whatever. So I guess I got it semi-decarb. No, I had to have gotten it decarbed all the way. Maybe I didn't infuse it long enough or on a high enough temperature. I don't know. The moral of that unnecessarily long ass story is, I ain't gotta put it in all in different kinds of foods and go and pay $100 for an infused meal event to get the infused meal. You can take you some oil, and then when your munchies kick in, eat whatever the hell you want to. And guess what? It'll be like that's infused whatever you ate. You want an orange? Guess what? It's an infused orange. You know why? Because you took your cannabis a couple hours ago and it's kicked in. So whatever you eat, it's going to be that infused whatever. Oh, you want an enchilada? I want an infused enchilada. Guess what? Go ingest you some cannabis. And when your munchies kick in, go and eat you some, what did I say? Whatever that food was I just said. Oh, enchiladas. And guess what? You got infused enchiladas. Oh, I want infused tea, but I can't figure out how they infuse it into the honey and then mix that into their tea. You know what you do? Take some cannabis, ingest it, and then just go make you some tea. In a couple of hours, if you drink that tea is going to be infused tea. My taste buds must be growing up. Because I am fine. It's not as good as when you sweeten it, but I'm fine with drinking unsweetened tea now. That's how I look when I go in the store and try a grape. I be rubbing it on my shoulder. All the way, spin it all the way around. And then I get the ends. Can't skip the top. Flip it over, get that bottom. And then I decide if it's good enough. And these days I like something sweet and plump. I learned my lesson for the first time ever. Has it ever happened to you guys? Have you ever picked out some smush ass grapes? They were tiny too, but I guess I got brainwashed because the last time I got some really good sweet grapes, they were tiny. So I figured they're tiny, and I ate one. It was kind of sweet, so I was like, okay, well, this should do. That should have been my first red flag when I said, oh, this should do. Because when they're good, it's like, this is it. But I was like, oh, this should do. Brought them hoes home, and they were all like soggy inside. But again, there was no waste because I used them in my green juice. These here I have left are plump and delicious. I like them when they're so fresh. If they have a little, sometimes they still have a little random green grape in there in the stem sometimes that didn't finish developing. See how full and shiny that is? And sometimes they're so fresh, some meat still stays on the stem part of the branch. Like that. That meat still comes out of there. Look at all the meat on that one. Now I'm getting hot. And why wouldn't hot tea make you hot? I was going to crack open this bean dip with this turtle. Ah! That's what I was going to do. And that's why I set this whole ass camera up.